pay more than anybody. Pay more than anybody. There's nobody, dude. If somebody works here at NextGen Air, they're making top dollar.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of In the Den with your digital shark, Bill Rossell. I got to tell you, I have been super excited about this particular episode for, I think I've been trying to get it between my schedule, his schedule, travel out to Fresno, vacation, his golf schedule. I have Ismael Valdez, the owner and CEO of NextGen, which is one of the premier heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and plumbing contractors in America. Ish, thanks, and welcome to the Den.
Dude, thank you for having me be here, man. And sorry for all the reschedules and all the shit, but you know, I run a pretty hectic, fucking tight schedule, and you know, sometimes I gotta push it off. I gotta be in the zone to be able to help people. You know what I'm saying? I just can't like wake up and snap on it.
So I got to tell you, it's funny that you talk about that right out of the gate. Is because one of my clients, small plumbing company, was at your shop today. A guy by the name of Joe Castro.
Oh, dude, that's your client?
Yep.
Oh, dude, he came in for that. I told him, look, I got an hour in between, bro. I'm gonna be working, but I'm gonna talk to you.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was your client, man. I hope I helped him. Like, dude,
he texted me. I told you I got a few hidden gems ready for you today. So he texted me and he said, dude, I had the most unbelievable hour at Ismael's place today. I can't wait to tell you about it. And I was like, dude, I'm interviewing him today for the Den. I got to tell you, I'm super excited to hear what transpired. He's like, he's a mover and a shaker. I said, you know, there's a famous old saying, if you can't dazzle him with brilliance, baffle him with bullshit. And he started laughing. So, but no, he was totally thoroughly impressed by having the opportunity to come and that you'd open your doors to NextGen. And I know that's something that we're going to kind of get into as far as your journey and what's going on. We run in the same circles, from Tommy Mello, Aaron Gaynor, Tom Howard. You can pick somebody that's in the space, probably more than likely they've been at your shop or you've been at their shop, to be able to help grow NextGen and take you from this, for lack of better words, working in a warehouse to where you are today. So, but before we want to get into that journey, I do always like to start my dens off with rapid fire questions. So the audience gets to know Ismael outside of being this $65 million a year HVAC company at the Angels Stadium, 150 billboards, the best recruiter in the industry, across the board. So my first question is, if you were on a desert island, what would be the one album that you would take with you?
Bob Marley.
I'm sorry?
Anything Bob Marley, anything reggae, anything that I could just vibe on, right? Because like I like to get in the zone, and how I get in the zone is that, right? And it puts me in that deep thought. So definitely Bob Marley, reggae, anything reggae I could vibe to.
Awesome. All right. You're standing on the tee of a par 4, 305 yards. Okay, straight away, sand traps in the front, little image up to the green.
Okay.
Do you break out the driver or do you go in an iron off the tee?
My driver, just because I could do 260, 280 on my driver right now, and I'm hitting them super straight right now. So definitely, yeah, driver off the tee for sure. Dude, these are good questions, man. You guys you're on fire today, Bill.
Thank you. Aside from the necessities in life, right? You know, you need water, air, food. What's something that you couldn't live a day without?
Talking to my girls. So I have 4 girls. I have Andrea, Sophia, Camila, and Victoria. I got to talk to them every day. I got to make sure that I see them. I got to make sure that they smile. I got to make sure like I make them laugh. I got to throw a joke at them. Like I got to make sure that once a day, I like in the back of my head through all the mayhem that I have here, through all the 500 something employees that we have now at NextGen. I got to make sure that I what keeps me grounded is making sure that I see them smile at least once a day. So that's the one thing I will not live without.
My understanding is you have a fifth girl that's 5 years old named NextGen.
Yes, that's my princess. That was one of my first princesses. So yes.
All right, let's get two more last minute questions. If you didn't get into the trades, what would you have done?
I'll be a dope dealer, man. I'll probably be the biggest drug lord in the fucking history. I'm playing. No. There was a joke when I started NextGen. There was a joke going around. Not a joke. There was rumors all over the fucking trades of, oh, you know, they're fucking laundering money at NextGen, and he's connected to the cartel. So when I do podcasts or when I talk on stage or whatever, I always like to bring a drug dealer fucking joke, and that's my joke right now. So if I wasn't in the trades, I'd be a drug dealer.
Listen, it's sales one way or the other, right?
Yes.
Big advocate of reading. What's the last book you read?
Never read a book in my life, man. Never
read a book in your life.
Never.
Somebody had to teach you the owner's manual of Service Titan because you know it better than anybody else out there.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you something. I don't know Service Titan enough to teach anybody. I know what it does, and I know what it could do, and I know what you could make it do, and I know I know how to talk about it, but I've never read a book. I've never read a manual. I've never I tried to read a book in high school, and the words didn't make sense to me. I was just like, man, this shit's not for me. So what I do to learn is I talk to people. Like, I'm a huge advocate of, hey, if I got to learn something, like, I got to find out who's doing it the best, right? And I got to learn from them. So when I started in the trades, I would always see Leland Service Champions, fucking $50 million business. So I found a way to get to them, right? I was like, I got to get on the phone with them. I got to get text messages with them. I got to build a relationship with them. So I kind of squeezed my way through the trades, through talking to people. Then I met Geiger, then I met Ken Haynes. I started meeting all these dudes when they started hearing about what was going on NextGen. And it was never a book. It was never anything. It was always like, dude, can I get 5 minutes of your time? Oh, Ismael, I can't today. Hey, can I? Okay, tomorrow. Okay, at what time? Or like late at night. Like, dude, I was so relentless on making sure that I hear their voice and they hear my voice. And whether it was a stupid question or was the most amazing question, I just had to get it out of my system so I can hear what their response was, so I can gauge how good they are. You know what I'm saying? So
No doubt.
Never a book. It's mostly. I learned through other people and building relationships, to be honest with you.
That's incredible because I think I try to read all the time, but because I fall asleep after about 15 minutes of reading, I started listening to shit on Audible because I have a 50-mile drive, and it's just like, it helps my mind kind of think about different things. And so that's where my learning's really coming into play, as well as one of the things that we've done at One SEO is we want to bring back the most incredible and excitement as far as what we're seeing in best practices. And, you know, as we talked about pre-podcast, is that One SEO is just not a business for the trades. We do B2B, we do B2C. I like to call it kind of B2E, but with 40% of our businesses being in the trades, to go out and see what an Ismael Valdez is doing, or to see what a Tommy Mello is doing, or to see what, you know, Tom Howard's doing, or an Aaron Gaynor, to be able to see what they're doing in their shops. How, you know, I like one of our clients that's been probably one of the most influential people to us is Brad K. Spear of Radiant Plumbing Heating in Austin, Texas. And he has been an incredible advocate of us, but B, more importantly, of how to bring culture to a business. Now, from where you were, and let's just give the audience a 30,000 foot level of how Ish got from working in a warehouse to sitting in this conference room with the same red chair, matching the red shoes.
So how it came about, dude, I was out of high school, and I was hungry to make money, right? Me and my brother have a Chrome business that we started. You know, we had it for a while already, and you know, I was selling for him rims, and then I was working at a auto distributor, and I was like doing so many things out of high school because I wanted to make money, right? Making money to me was like the only comfort I had, to like knowing that I could pay my own bills, buy my own car, doing all that shit. So I come out of high school, I'm driving down, and I see this now hiring sign for Howard Industry. Howard Industry is a supply house for American Standard. They supply equipment, material, and everything. So I saw now hiring side. I have a deadbeat job. I'm making like, $7, $8, whatever it was at the time. And I passed by there. I had a quick 5-minute interview with the guy named Richard. And he's like, and right away he's like, hey, can you start on Monday? I'm like, bro, of course I can start on Monday. He gave me like $1 more, like $1.50 more, and I was like super fucking stoked. I was so happy that I was gonna make $1 more. And yeah, I went in there and I started in the back of the warehouse picking parts. So they would give me a pull slip and I would go and grab it for the contractors, and I would like chat it up with all the contractors, man. They're 90% of their 95% of their customers were $1 million to $3 million to $4 million contractors, and I would chop it up with them, and they would always be like, oh yeah, I just sold a system for 10,000, and I would see like, man, this shit's like $2,200. You know what I'm saying? Like labor can't be that expensive, right? So I'm like, I started putting shit in my head. I'm like, man, these guys are making money, man. These fuckers are making real money, right? And they're all coming in. So I started like talking to them more and more and more and asking them questions. And yeah, they complain about their business and how the customer this and leads and it slows down and all that shit. And like I try to put a blinder when they would complain, and I would ask them more like, hey, so like where do you get your leads from? Like how do customers call you, and who do you send out there, and how do you price yourself and all this shit? And I started getting so fucking intrigued by it, right? So I built a good relationship with all the contractors there. They moved me up to the counter. I'm at the counter, I'm chopping it up with them. This guy named Ken Starr walks in. He's probably the greatest fucking salesman in the whole world, right? He has his own company with his dad. He started it, he parted ways, and he started his own company called American Comfort, right? He had been doing American Comfort for 2 years, couldn't get it past 3 million. He's frustrated. He's like, dude, everybody looks up to you. There's a fucking line of people always trying to talk to you. Everybody's like fucking laughing it up, and all the installers, the technicians, the sales guys, they're all looking for you. And I'm like, yeah, bro, but it's because I mess around with them, and I help them and I get them out quick and all that shit. Doesn't mean that they're gonna follow me, right? And he's like, bro, like for me, I've stayed at the counter for an hour looking at you from the corner of my eye, you fucking making everybody laugh and having a good relationship, and all these guys fucking love you, Ismael. And I'm like, no, they don't. They're cool. They're just good people. He's like, come on, get out. If we could imagine, like in a year from now, we could get up to 5 million, and we'll go 50-50 on it. And I was like, no, man, I'm cool. I'm making money. So he finally gives me $50,000 in cash and as a sign-on bonus. He puts me front center at the Lakers against Miami, I think. And he knew I'm a diehard LeBron James fan. So he puts me like a really good seat. I text him, you know what? I'm in, bro. He gives me like, I think it was like a $200,000 salary back in the day, or 175, somewhere around. So we start from zero. I start calling on the installers, technicians, and everything. So we start grinding. We get it to $21 million in 4 years. We had 160 something employees. We're doing good. And like he dealt with the financials, and he dealt with like the lead generation, right? Like making sure the sales guys were selling, right? And then from there, I took it on. So the operational side from selling to collecting a check was my job, right? And I fell in love with it because I saw so many moving parts that would all equate to making sure that we collect money, right? You got to make sure the installers get there, the customer's happy, drop off equipment, pick up material, all that shit. And I love quarterbacking everything. So I fell in love with the operational side. 2016, I think, he sends HR after me, and he says, hey, the company's not doing so well. We're going to have to cut some overhead, and, you're our biggest expense. You're making, I think I was making like $250,000 or some shit like that, but with bonuses, all that. So, he lets me go, and I'm like, wait, like this motherfucker told me that this is our company. Like we're 50-50, right? But like, so I took his word from it. Now, knowing what I know now, I would have obviously gotten my shares, gotten the lawyer involved, then all the corporation split it up and everything. I didn't do that. So he fires me, right? Because the overhead's too high. Now knowing what I know, the NextGen, like going through all the NextGen, educating myself on financials, he was just drying out the company. He was sucking all the company, this cash out of it.
Let me ask you that moment when you had that conversation of we're letting you go.
Yep.
That ride from where you were to your home, was that the longest hour of your life?
So I told them, so the guy that he sent to, like, so first of all, when he sat me down, I'm like, Paul was the HR guy. I'm like, Paul, where's Ken? He's like, Ismael, Ken decided. I'm like, bro, do you understand that this is my company? Like all these people you see here, 90% of them, they're my dudes. I hired them. I did the onboarding. They wouldn't have been here. You guys were stuck at $2 million 3 years ago.
Right.
Like, and he's like, Ishmael, the decision was made. I'm like, whatever. So I told him, drop me off at my brother's shop, which is 10 minutes away. And I'm like going over there, and I sit down and I look at my brother and I tell my brother the whole story and everything. He's like, oh, he can't fire you. It's your company. But that feeling, bro, the feeling of me telling my brother, which my brother's like my dad. I lost my dad, and we were never really close. My older brother Eduardo has been like my mentor, my dad, my guy, right? I rely on him for everything. Me telling him that I was fired, that this fucking guy like took advantage of me and like he fucked me over. That feeling still, up to right now, I still feel it in my gut.
Is that one of the motivating factors?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. When that shit happened, I went and I sat down with him, and I remember that, like, I felt like I had done a million fucking sit-ups. Like my stomach was burning, right? And I'm sitting down with him, and he's like, well, what are you gonna do? I'm like, I don't know, bro. Like, I know I could get a job anywhere the fuck I want, but like, I don't know. He's like, don't do that shit. I go and tell my wife, and we sat down, and she goes like, look, you gotta start, like, you gotta do your own shit. You can't be helping these fucking people no more. They all think they figured you out. They all think that, you help them out, and that you build an operation, and then they could let you go, and then everything's gonna be flawless, right? Like, you gotta stop doing that. And I'm like, no, man, I gotta go work for somebody. What about, and like, we gotta pay the house, we gotta pay the cars, we got bills. We only got like 17 grand in the fucking bank account. It's not like I could, take a couple months off. And she goes like, look, you're not gonna work for anybody else. Go and fucking start something. And even if it's small, let's just do something together. And yeah, like a week later, I was like, all right, cool. And it was gonna be called Next Generation Air Conditioning, but it was too long.
So that was your Tom Brady 199 moment.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, my wife's sitting me down and telling me, hey, you're not gonna go work for anybody else. Like, she knows how I am. And we made a deal that day too. Like that day, we said we were having dinner, and I told her, look, man, if I start a company, and I already had the name, I already had everything, because my whole life I wanted to do it already, ever since I met Ken. And I told her, look, if we start a company, right, you gotta promise me something though. You gotta promise me that you're never, ever, ever going to get on me for working too much, for being too obsessed with it, like whether we're not growing, whether it's going good or bad. You just gotta let me figure it out, and you gotta make sure that these girls are good at home. Like, sometimes I'll be home at 6, 7 p.m. Sometimes I'll be home at 4 p.m. Like you just gotta let me grind. And she's like, look, go and do that and see what you could build, and I'll make sure that these girls are taken care of. And I'm like, all right.
So it was kind of like her mentality was, you make the living, she'll make the living worthwhile.
Of course, that's exactly what it was. And we made a deal that day that she wasn't gonna get on me. She wasn't gonna like get on my case about anything. And I told her, look, I'm gonna grow the biggest fucking air conditioning and plumbing company this fucking industry will ever see, right? And she's like, just go do it. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I think the first week I had like 3 vans, and we just kept building for it. You know what I'm saying?
So it's funny is that when we were at Vertical Track, Lance was talking, he said he had all these glorious plans for One SEO and what his vision was.
Yep.
And so he started cold calling people, right? Cold calling people. And the first person he called said, and she's still our client today, Lisa Dunleavy, 5-star painting. He called her up, and she said, come out. So he runs out there. He has the sales call, right? She gives him the credit card on the spot. He has no contract. He has no contract. He calls his sister up, who is our CFO, who started the company with him. And he says, oh my God, you're not going to believe this. I got our first sale. It's $300, right? And she's like, Lance, that's great, but we don't have a way to process the credit card. We don't know how to do anything at this point. And he said, don't worry, we'll figure it out together. Yes. And, that's 14 years ago. And now we have, 125 clients between 2 locations. And, he and I have worked together for 20 plus years. But, I think, and it's interesting to hear your story, because there are a lot of business owners that are out there that are, whether it be HVAC, plumbing, electrical, whether it be painting, roofing, siding, carpet lying, whatever it might be, somebody is out there ready to take that next step. You posted yesterday in Avengers, right? What's the best business advice anybody has given you?
Oh, that one got a lot of fucking comments, man. That was dope.
I didn't see your post. What's the best business advice somebody's ever given you?
Never stop chasing.
Never stop chasing.
Leland told me that. Kenny's told me that. Like my whole life, I've always chased somebody. My whole life, I've always gone for whoever's like on top of me, right? So like at the time when I started, I've always known like, Leland was doing good, and then I started expanding my mind, talking to contractors outside of California, and I found out Geiger's doing 400 million, and I find out Paul Kelly's doing 200 at one location, and I start finding out all this shit. I'm like, what the f-? I gotta chase those guys, right? So the best advice was never stop chasing. And dude, to now, right now, I still like, I have a group message. It's like 5 or 6 of us in a group message, and I'm the bottom of it, right? I'm like at like numbers 4 or 5 of it, and I'm always talking shit in there. Like, don't fucking get used to this. Next year, I'm gonna fuck you guys up. Just letting you know.
There's 2 thoughts that I have that come from that. First of all, was that Rolex you got for Tommy for him not hitting?
Hey, let's talk about Tommy's stupid bets, though, dude.
Was that the best bet? Was that the best bet you've ever won in your life?
That was one of them. I just got Ara from Service Time. We made a bet like a year ago, and I just beat him on it too. Me and Tommy and Ara probably have the best bets going, but it's always to push each other.
So the second part is, it's interesting is that going back to that question about Service Avengers, is that for me, I was given some great advice, and it's not advice it's advice that I've taken personally and professionally. But I went to go to Seattle to go to a NextStar leadership event. And I travel across the country. I go from Philly to Seattle, 6 hours. I'm exhausted. I get into the hotel. I get my key, and I'm like, screw it. I'm going straight to have a cocktail. I'm like, I'm dog tired. So I sit down, and this guy comes up and he sits next to me, and I start chatting with him. And I said to him, I introduced myself and his name. And you probably know the company. His name's Jerry Bell Brothers. Okay.
My brother.
All right. So anyways, one of the things he said to me was, when my brother and I started the company and we relocated from a couple of guys making pizzas in the Phoenix market and relocated to San Francisco, he said, we were doing 2 million in revenue, but we knew that if we hung out with people doing 2 million, right, we were never going to get to 5 million. So if we wanted to get to 5 million, we started hanging out with guys who were doing 7 million.
Yes.
Okay. He said, then we started hanging out guys doing 15 and we were doing 11. He said, we got to 75 million. There weren't a lot of people to freaking hang out with. I always say when I talk to one of our clients, if you want to grow your business, there's 2 things you can do. Number one is you can sit back and be afraid, or you can dive in with the big dogs and go hang with the big dogs. It takes a ball sack to say, I'm going to pony up and I'm going to go up against the big boys in the market.
Dude, if you sat us all down in one table right here, we all say the same thing. We all talk about the same thing, right? Because we're all on that same level. And that's a fucking amazing advice. Always chase who's in front of you. I had a little bit different. My first year, I did $9.8 million in revenue at NextGen, right? So, but I knew I wanted to get to 100, right? And there wasn't that many people at 100, but there was a ton of people between 30, 40, 50, 60. And those are the people. I got their cell phone. I went on their social media. I went to their operation. I went to talk to them personally, and I didn't stop until I got what I wanted. Right. So it was the consistency of, okay, Leland's 15 minutes away. Kenny and Jerry, I went to their operation twice, I think. And I sat down with them, and you know what I do when I talk to these people, I shut the fuck up and I listen. I let them tell me. I want to ask good questions where they can be like, man, this kid's good. Or yes, I'm going to text him back. Or yes, I want to spend time with him. He's got something. Right. So that's what I always did. I always chased. I always make sure that whoever was in front of me, I got him. I sat down for 5 minutes and I had a conversation with them. Whether it was one question I got answered, which that was my goal. And
yeah, it's crazy. The one thing I love about the trades, okay, and I don't think truly it's anywhere else that I've ever experienced, is the ability to share information. Like to be able to say, you're going to open your shop up to Joe Castro, okay, who you probably have the same market area.
You never met him.
Never met him. Okay. For Tommy to say, everybody come into my shop. All you people that are coming to Vertical Track, come to my shop. I'm going to show you what my training center looks like. I'm going to put out my content. I'm going to give you my information. I'm going to give you my price book. Literally charge 3 times more than what you're charging right now. Okay. Because in order to grow your business and scale, you can't be afraid of the rejection of price.
100%.
And so it's just such a great, it's such a great community to be involved with, to see that type of sharing. I truly envy it. So kind of shifting gears a little bit, you've gone from, 9.8 million to 30 million to 65 million, probably on pace to be at 94 and change this year. And you're very open about putting your information out there. July was 7.5 million, 2021. You're 11.2 this year, feeling great. Okay. But you can't get there without 2 things, because you're one person in a room right now. I'm one person in a room. The circle of influence gets smaller the larger you grow.
Yep.
That has to deal with 2 things: recruiting and great leadership.
Yep.
Okay. Talk to me about those. Let's first start off with recruiting. How much of an impact is recruiting in your business today?
In the journey, going from 0 to 100 mil, there's different stages that you got to pay attention to in the operation, right? Like going from 0 to $10 million is probably one of the hardest jumps you're going to take, because you're building it, right? You're building a system of decision making, right? And most people, these guys that we talk to that are stuck at $2 to $3 million, it's because I'll give you the number one reason why they get stuck there is because you can only make so many decisions as an owner. Okay, so listen to what I just told you. The ability to make decisions is what creates the growth. The ability to make, whether they're right or wrong. And when I was talking to Joey, I told them that, I was like, look, man, you're stuck at $1 million because you're not making decisions. Like tell me exactly how your operation flows. Tell me exactly what you're doing in marketing and all that. The ability to make decisions is what got you stuck at $1 million. You're making all the decisions right now. In order for you to create to 10 to 50 to 100 million, you need to build a team of people that make decisions for you and that make decisions rapidly too, right? So at $10 million, most people are going to get stuck between $3 to $5 million because that's what they're capable of doing based on themselves. You still haven't hired a general manager, CFO, CEO, controller, all those people that need to make decisions for you. The more decisions that the business makes and that the operation makes, the faster you grow. That's why people are stuck at $2 to $3 million because they're so scared of making the wrong decision. And that's why I told Joey, I'm like, bro, if you make the wrong decision, that's good because you know it's a wrong decision. Not making a decision is what keeps you in place.
It's that, and you know what it is as well? It's that trust guard scenario that everybody has their guard up, that the employee can't do it as well as you can do it. Well, you have to be self-aware of what your strengths and weaknesses are. You already said, and anybody that's on your executive leadership team knows he isn't reading a book. He's asking you what the reasoning is to figure out. You don't, at your level with what you're dealing with, you don't want problems, you want solutions.
There's 100,000 decisions that got to be made at $100 million. Okay, I can only make 1, 2, 3, 10 decisions. You got to understand the ability to make decisions every fucking day produces growth. Hiring that technician that you just interviewed and saying, oh man, what about if I don't have leads? What about the off season? What about this? What about that? Is what gets you stuck at $1 million. Calling that fucking marketing company and saying, okay, cool, I want to spend $10,000 on marketing. That decision that you just made created a step forward, right? But everybody second guesses that. Everybody's like, well, why should I hire that company? Why should I spend money on Google? Why should I spend money on what about if I don't get the leads? What about if that technician doesn't produce? What about if that technician steals from me? That is what keeps you in place, because what about is what creates the stillness. Now, hiring that technician, spending that marketing money, $5,000, and knowing that $5,000 can keep 2 to 3 technicians, or $10,000 can keep 4 to, like, knowing that is what drives the car forward, right?
You know, it's funny is because, you know, I've heard you talk about on other podcasts, I think it might have been on Victor's or it might have been on Chris's, is the importance of tracking.
Yep.
And how much people do, like, I'll ask people, I'll say to them, hey, listen, do you have access to your CallRail account or your Service Titan, or do you have access to your Google Analytics? And they're like, no. And I'm like, that would be like me. That would be like me walking in and saying to the CFO, you don't have access to QuickBooks.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
How do you not know what's working and what's not? Half of everything works. Figure out which half works and put more money into the half that works. Yes. And sometimes you have to take risks. You have to take risks. You took a risk at one point to say, I'm going to put up 40 billboards. What was that decision process like?
Doing it. So the reason why the growth is so fast here is because I don't second guess that. Like, I noticed that there's all these fucking companies all over the freeway in Southern California putting up billboards. And I've noticed that since day one. But the operation wasn't able to handle it because I educated myself on marketing and knowing that if I put up 1 billboard for a month, it's not going to do shit. If I put up 10 billboards for a month, it's probably not going to do shit. But if I put up 20 billboards for 6 months, a year, or whatever, the consistency of that, right, will trigger leads, will trigger something, right? So when the operation was already running properly, the financials were already straight, we were already making money, and I knew exactly what was going inside the operation. That's when I was like, okay, cool, I can afford to put up 100 billboards, right? We got to be able to afford it for this amount of time. By that time, right, and we barely put up the billboards, by the way, Bill, like 3 years ago, when the operation got, fine-tuned, I was able to look at the financials and be like, okay, cool, I can afford billboards. Now, it's not going to drive 100 million leads, but guess what it's going to do? It's going to
reinforce the brand.
Exactly. So when people go on Google, they look at, oh, that's that company on the billboard. Let me click here. Let me click. So my cost on Google is gonna get drastically reduced, and more people are gonna click on me, which create more leads. Right? Same thing with Yelp, same thing with Facebook, same thing with all that. So when I made that decision, I was already prepping for it. I was just making sure that the operation can handle me sustaining 100 billboards for a year, 200 billboards for a year, whatever it was, because I know the key to marketing is not Google, it's not Facebook, it's not billboard, it's not a magazine. There's not one thing. It's fucking consistency.
No doubt.
The key to marketing is consistency.
So as you know, we're a digital agency. We literally have 18 billboards around the Metro Philly area. That's incredible, because what it does is when somebody goes to look for us, they find us, they see us. There's so much noise going on in your life today that if you don't take the opportunity to say, where can I find a place to continually put my face in front of somebody, you're going to fall dead in the water. And it's funny because I heard at the beginning of 2020, I heard people say, oh my gosh, we're going into this restriction. We got to pull back. One guy said it to me best. He said, listen, we've made a lot of money in the home services space for a lot of years. Guess what? Now it's that rainy day that I put my money away for, and I'm going 10 times more on my marketing during COVID than I was pre-COVID, because there are going to be people that are going to pull back, and I'm going to increase my market share.
Why do you think the private equity deals came in? Like, they finally noticed that the industry, the trades, roofing, electrical, HVAC, plumbing, all those guys, the garage door industry, they finally noticed us, right? Because they never paid attention to us. Private equity was in our game, but nobody really knew what it was in there. COVID happens and they see that we're fucking bulletproof, we're pandemic proof, we're recession proof. Like, whether the world's lit up on fire, people still need us, right? That's why all these private equity deals are going through, because they saw that we're a fucking hidden gem.
Do you think the market softens on it, or do you think it continues to go?
It continues. It continues. Let me tell you what's going to happen, okay? In the next year, 2 years, 5 years from now, this fucking industry, the private equity game, is going to diversify, okay? When private equity started 3 years ago, that started getting really hot, 2.5 to 3 years ago, there was about 40 to 50 private equity people trying to infiltrate our industry. Right now, there's about 200 active private equity people that are trying to come into the industry and start investing money into it. A year from now, there's going to be 500. 5 years from now, there's going to be 1,000 of these fuckers. Okay, guess what? Pay attention to them. Pay attention to it. Pay attention to it. Get ready, because, dude, if you would have told me 3 years ago when my business was making, single-digit profits, I thought I knew everything, but I fucking didn't. Tom Howard sat me down and educated me on financials. If you would have told me, hey, Ismael, 3 years from now, you're going to sell NextGen Air for $150, $200 million. Okay, I would have been like, you're fucking stupid. We could barely pay the bills, right? But I educated myself on it. I saw the private equity coming in, and guess what I did? I structured my financials for them because I never knew.
He could be one of the best guys at telling you your business is running incorrectly and not make you feel like a fool doing it.
No, he's like, so dude, when Tom Howard came into the NextGen, I was using service time wrong. I was their biggest fucking nightmare. I was like, you guys are fucking dumb. How are you guys trying to charge me $200 a user? I'm not gonna pay $20,000, $30,000 for this piece of shit software that just dispatches. And they're like, what do you mean it just dispatches? I'm like, we don't use it for anything else. We just use it to get the customer information and send it to our technicians. They're like, so you're not doing invoicing, QuickBooks, inventory? I'm like, no. And they're like, oh my God. So they sent Tom Howard. And then Tom Howard sat me down and he dove in. We went from running 100% paper to 100% paperless over a 1 month span, right? And then he started digging into the financials and he fucking said, he's like, hey, don't feel bad, man. Honestly, like you're operating for you to get it up to $30 million with no financial background, you're a fucking beast, right? He literally said it. And then he's like, but you need to work on this.
Well, the interesting part is that one of the things that I've heard from multiple people is that when you recognize something isn't the way that you want it to be, you are the quickest at turning it around to make it the way that it should be.
In 45 days, we went from making low single digit profits to making I think we were close to 11, 12%. In 45 days, we turned the ship around.
I think that there is some aspect to say when you go from 0 to 9.8 million and have that type of growth, you are going to run. And that's what I think that the smaller guy has to understand is that you're not going to run 15, 20, 22% EBITDA numbers like a guy that's established at 18 to 20 million.
They're not spending 11, 12% on marketing like I was. At the time, I was spending 14% marketing to drive that fucking growth up. They're not, I can't get 14, I can't get my gross profit about 50, 60% gross profit if I'm spending 14, 15% on marketing. Those guys are spending 2 to 3, maybe 4%.
It's funny. I tell people all the time, you can go in and Google, what should a small business spend on marketing? And the Small Business Administration says under 5 million, you should be spending 7 to 8% of where you want your gross number to be. Above 5 million, a minimum of 10%, because you don't want to lose employees. I know we're running close on time. I want to go back real quick. Talk to me about how you go about generating leaders within NextGen.
So what I look for is somebody that I can trust. That's the number one thing I look for, right? Because essentially anybody could do the job of an executive, of a director, of a general manager, of a, the trust part is huge to me. So I go based on a gut feeling of like, I can see myself working with this guy or gal or whatever. And you got to understand, once you're a director at NextGen, executive or higher management, like, dude, there's conversations that aren't pretty. And I got to be able to see myself, having those conversations, those rough conversations with these high level people. So I look for number one, trust. Number two, somebody that I can see myself unloading on a bad day, being like, what the fuck is this? Why didn't you guys catch this? Why the fuck is purchasing up? Why is our cost of goods sold? Like, if I can talk to them like that, that's huge to me, because if I gotta change the way I am to cater to their needs, then it doesn't work out. It doesn't, like, the passion doesn't get amplified to them. And once I have that person, then I just build them. Like, so it's not about a skill or something specific. It's more about trust, number one. And number two, I can see myself having a relationship with them where it's really bad and it's really good, but we're still pushing forward.
And that's very similar to the way that Lance operates as far as within our organization. And he's very open, like, to be able to say, Behind closed doors, one-on-one, like you and I right now, I can come to you and say, Ishmael, I think that was a bad decision we made. Okay. But when we walk back out onto that floor, into that office, it is supported by whatever decision you made. There can be multiple people leading, but there's one chief.
Of course.
There's one chief.
You said it good though. I re-emphasize that. When I walk out of these doors, these glass doors, I have 4 or 5 directors in here, and I'm fucking on their ass about something that's wrong in the operation, and I can't believe they fucking didn't catch it. When I walk out of these doors, everybody's smiling. We go back to fucking nothing happened in here, and it's not a, well, why are you so hard on me, or why are you picking on? It's never that. If you get to be an executive or a director here at NextGen, we fucking go hard. And as soon as we walk out the door, hey, let's go grab a sandwich. I'm hungry. Let's talk about something.
It can't be held on. Lance has a saying, you can't get butt hurt because I'm holding you accountable to something that as our organization grows, you need to understand that it goes both ways. Now, I can tell you there's been plenty of times where I brought ideas to him and said, let's do this. And he's like, that's the dumbest idea I ever heard. But I caught him at the wrong time. I wasn't positioned myself to be able to explain my theory, came back in 2 weeks and he's like, let's roll.
Exactly. Yes.
And I think that that's key to having people understanding who you are, because at the end of the day, like I said, there's one chief.
Yep.
And that one chief has to be responsible, because at the end of the day, you sign the check for every 500 employees of NextGen. That's an incredible responsibility. I don't have that responsibility. I do, as far as making sure that we have the things necessary to make sure we get every employee paid. Here's what I want to do. We like to do what we call the final roar. Okay. There is an Ismael Valdez that's sitting out there right now.
Yep.
What's that piece of advice you're going to give that person to be able to say, just go for it?
Make the decisions. Decisions drive growth. Decisions drive results. Decisions drive knowledge. Decisions drive everything. Stop contemplating whether you should hire that one marketing company. Stop contemplating whether you should put that out on that magazine. Stop contemplating if that technician is going to be good or bad. The only way you're going to know is if you make a decision. So when you're starting off, what drives growth is decision making, and don't be scared to make the wrong decision. I fucking love when all these guys make a decision without me, because it makes me feel like they empowered themselves to not be afraid of being wrong or right. I love being wrong, because now I know not to go down that avenue. I love going and hiring that magazine company that promised me 1 million leads and giving them everything that they asked me for, and then being like, well, you're fucking stupid, that didn't work, right? At least I know. But guess what? If I didn't know that one newspaper, one magazine, one SEO, one Google, one Facebook, one all that, if I didn't know, then I'm still standing still. At least I know, like, hey man, one SEO is a fucking dope ass company. I'm gonna spend $20,000 with them a month. I'm gonna track their performance, and then we're gonna keep making decisions. So stop contemplating on whether you should do things and start making decisions. Decisions drive growth. And the last thought, and this is probably one of the most important things: pay more than anybody. Pay more than anybody. There's nobody, dude. If somebody works here at NextGen, they're making top dollar. I don't give a who you think you are. You think you're running the best company in the nation? Nobody makes more money than NextGen. If you're a technician, if you're a sales guy, if you're an installer, if you're a CSR, if you're a dispatcher, if you're an accountant, whatever you are here, you're making more money. And if I find out you fuckers are paying more than me, I'm gonna pay more. Okay? So number one, pay more. Number two, make decisions. Those two things is what got me here. What got me to $100 million.
Dude, I love it. I love it. Listen, I truly appreciate, I know you got a shitload of stuff going on, and you made time for me to bring it to our audience of what's going on. I can't say enough about that. I'm glad you got to meet Joe today. I'm sure there's many others that have come across your path that we know, we work together. And I wish you nothing but the continued success. I look forward to seeing you personally out at your place, and keep up the fucking amazing work, dude. You're crushing it.
I appreciate it. Thanks, man.